When will it end? 4 straight for Florida State. Jason could tell us how many straight that would be going back to last season. Is
No,
it
four straight.
5? They won their
No.
last game?
They
The
beat
Duke
Duke.
game?
They beat Duke to end last season. So we ended last season on a high note.
Okay.
The 2-6 Mafia, and then we became the 3-6 Mafia.
All right. So it's 0-4 this year, 4 consecutive losses for Florida State football. We are going to find some good in this game, though, because they fought back from 31-7 to 31-23 with 2 drives, one that they took in the red zone, the other one inside the 50 to try to pull that game out against Louisville at home last weekend, with Syracuse up front coming up on Saturday. As always, Jason Parker, NBC 6, and of course Logan Robinson from the esteemed Knoll Game Day. Boys, how we doing tonight?
Before we talk about the game, let's get Logan. Logan, it was your first time in the press box, baby's first time in the press box. Tell us, talk about your first experience inside the press box.
First experience felt really nice. Got to see some people that been friends with for years and years and years, and actually, being up there with them, they were ecstatic to see a few of our guys up there along with me. So it was nice. It's nice to have the Wi-Fi. It's nice to have the computer. Got some Chick-fil-A while we were up there, and got to really the biggest part is having that Wi-Fi and the computer, and then also have the access to the press conference. It is a long day, though. 3:30 game. We'll do it again this upcoming weekend, but 3:30 games, I think I've found that I'm not too much of a fan of, because we're already in there at 1:30. You got you get pregame, you're at the game, and then you do post for about an hour and a half. It is a long day. So I'm almost like, well, let me do an 8 o'clock so I have all day. I mean, I'll still be up till 2 or 3 anyways. That's how it usually works. But yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. And it was nice to be there and be next to, Gene Deckerhoff's calling the game over there, and got to go swing by his booth and see how it's all ran and everything. And it was nice. And I'm excited to keep grinding and getting after it.
How tempted were you to drink walking into the press box?
God, I was telling Dustin and Noah, who were with me that day, and telling them this is the first time, and I don't know how many years, that I'm walking around the stadium without a beer in my hand. I had water in my hand, and it was really, really hurtful. But now I know that I can sneak. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to sneak anything up there.
Well, Daddy's proud
little
of
shots.
You. Daddy's proud of you. You did a good job.
Hearing Daddy from you is very scary.
I know.
It makes me nervous, and I think that Chad is nervous.
Danny doesn't want to listen to me tell truth tonight. Oh, he wants me to lie and say everything's great with the Florida State team that's 0-4 for the first time since 1974. Got it. I shouted it loud for about the last 2 weeks. So yeah.
I know. I'm sure. Yeah. Everybody in Miami can hear it.
I'm giving you credit, though, Logan. This is the second week after a loss you've shown up. So
yeah,
welcome. I'm giving you credit.
Hey. School comes first. School does come first. Last couple months.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
It doesn't. It's like my third thing. It's on my agenda every day. But
let's give the Seminoles credit for a moment. Let's, honest to God, I'm going to make Danny wish he had listened. And I'm going to give Florida State some credit. Florida State, the last 32 minutes of that game, played very well. The defense played exceptional, stopping Louisville. The offense played exceptionally well, was able to get 3 scoring drives, both to end the first half and in the second half. So I'm just going to say it like this. The last 32 minutes were great. The first 28 minutes were dog crap. You can't jump out and your defense plays god-awful, gives up 31 points in the first half. Logan, explain this one to me. What happened in that first half to where the defense just looked like they couldn't stop anything in the first half?
Brownlee talked about it in the press conference after, but so much miscommunication. I mean, it was just – that was kind of been for the whole season, but – guys not being able to cover the flats. I mean, that was just continuous. Travis J was getting eaten on it. Brownlee had a few plays where he had some rough times during the game, and then a few others, but just so much miscommunication and tackles that should be made way earlier. That's what has caused this defense to stay out on that field, get worn out, and then eventually have Louisville score down there. I mean, Malik Cunningham is nothing fantastic, but like we had predicted, Florida State's defense was going to make him look like a solid quarterback, and that was the first half. Second half, it changed up quite a bit, and that's the positives to take away from it is that there's adjustments being made, and we haven't seen that in a while. Not allowing Louisville to score in the second half is humongous, and I think that's a big turnaround, and for mainly the team and those players to realize, hey, this is what worked. Let's watch a film and let's keep going on that trend. And that's something where I feel a lot more optimistic heading into this weekend for this defense. I don't want to get too optimistic and screw myself over with whatever kind of prediction I'll make, but I do think that was a big thing for this team to really understand, all of them, that's how you shut out a half. It's just got to be, you got to start off way better earlier, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, I think offensively, on the offensive side of the ball, I'm trying to figure out real quick why Florida State is continuously trying to let Mackenzie Milton had a much better game against Louisville. I will give him credit. He had a much better game against Louisville than he did in his previous 2 starts against Wake Forest and against Jacksonville State. But that being said, when you've got the run game working as well as the run game has been, in spite of the offensive line issues that come with pass protection, in spite of the god-awful play of the offensive line for most of the game, why are we not running the ball more? This is my question. Louisville, go ahead.
I'm right there with you, Jason. Why can we not get – did I just say we?
Yep. Wow.
Why can Florida State not get Deshawn Corbin the ball more than 10 times?
You heard it here first.
First of all, wow.
What week was this? What week is this?
It was in the spirit of the program.
I mean, Logan has shown more professionalism than you. I mean, that's all I'm saying right now. Just want you to think about your actions, what you just did there, Mark.
Actions.
But that Mark doesn't make an excellent point. Yeah. If it's working, what is the obsession with not going? I'm not saying Florida State would have won the game if they had run the ball more. I'm not saying Florida State would have been as close had they not gone the game plan. But there comes a point where if it's working for you, it doesn't have to be sexy. Sometimes it can be Victoria's Secret. Sometimes it can be Target. It's just got to get the job done. And that Target offense is the running game. And if it's working, we saw it against Jacksonville State. It was working. For at times it worked against Wake Forest. It worked against Notre Dame. It's starting to work against Louisville. Why aren't you going with it?
Yeah, where'd it go? I mean, we saw that earlier in the season when Deshawn Ward, kind of messes up that rhythm, taking him off the field. And, Deshawn Corbin has had a great season so far. And, a lot of people, with the season being 0-4, we forget that Jermaine Johnson is one of the best defensive ends in the country, leading sacks everywhere. That's what sucks about it. If this team was 3-1, that's what we'd be talking about. Deshawn Corbin, what a season! This is insane. Jermaine Johnson, this is phenomenal. But that gets hidden over the factor of the record. But Deshawn Corbin got to run the ball more. And I believe one of the members of the media asked Norvell, what's the game plan for the run? Like, is that going to be implemented more? And he said, well, it is. It is a big part of our game plan. They just got to keep consistent with it, and they got to feed more to the guys that are doing the best during the day, and that's usually Deshawn Corbin or Treshawn Ward, and those two have had a great season. That tandem is wonderful, and you can use Toa Philly whenever you need to. But if it's just not working, don't keep them out there just to kind of keep hammering it down. There's no reason to. That's a waste of time and waste of the other talent that you have back there with 0 and 8. So. Continue to run the ball.
Deshawn Corbin is racking up a nice season here. He had the 1 down game against Wake, but otherwise 11 carries on this game against Louisville for 159. Of course, he had a 75-yarder, but that counts. And 2 other 100-yard games, 109 against Jacksonville State, 144 against Notre Dame. He's averaging over 9 yards a carry for the season.
You take out that long touchdown, he's still averaging over 8 yards a carry. Give me that every single day. It doesn't have to be sexy. At this rate, just get a win. Just get that first win, and you're within striking distance against Louisville. After all I bashed that team, after the Wake Forest loss, you had your shot. You don't have to be sexy. Be like me. Don't be sexy like Logan. Be sexy like me. I'm cute. Logan's boy band cute. Let's admit it. I know my weaknesses. It's fine.
Now we're getting into the scary
Don,
parts.
seriously? You think we're gonna lose by 24 points? That's bold, Don.
Dang.
That is some hate in your heart.
Don. What are we doing, Don? What are we doing?
Don, get out of here. We don't have time for your negativity. I have enough negativity on my own. I don't need anyone else's negativity.
But staying on the positive route, besides Deshawn Corbin tearing it up and Jermaine Johnson on the defensive side from his end position, Logan, why was the defense that much better in the second half?
I think it was really getting better. The communication was fixed. That's what Brownlee had said. They had figured out, going out and starting the second half, they wanted to get off the field, and that's what they did a way better in that second half. The miscommunication was fixed. There were still some errors here and there, but that was the biggest hurdle for them in this game, was getting after the quarterback first. And you saw Keir Thomas. He was, I think, before the game, one of the most fired up guys. So I was keeping an eye on him. But he was all around getting to Malik Cunningham. And then also you look at Jermaine Johnson doing his thing. I thought Robert Cooper also had a really good game, too. That defensive line was showing out in the second half. So the communication being fixed in the DB room, along with that defensive line. Linebackers are still sometimes you're like, who's out there? Is there a linebacker group? But I thought overall that defensive line and the communication that got better in the backfield of the defensive side helped a ton, and that's just going to have to be what continues to go.
Logan, now that we're a third of the way through the season, give me your offensive MVP through the first third of the season and your defensive MVP, and then also who needs to improve the most on both sides of the ball.
Offensively, I'll go Deshawn Corbin. I think that's a pretty good pick. It's mixed between him and Treshaun Ward. But I'd go to Deshawn Corbin for offense. And then defensively, easy pick here, obviously, with Jermaine Johnson. No shocker. I mean, leading sack guy in the country with, not only that, but in the run game, I think Syracuse's coach talked about it, that Jermaine Johnson, they got to prepare for him. And, not only in the pass rush, but in the run game. And they have one of the best backs right now in the country, too, the true freshman with Syracuse. So they're going to be prepared this weekend for Jermaine Johnson. It just depends on, what the kind of game plan that Fuller has for him, Coach Pap, along with Odell on that D-line. But right now, Corbin and Jermaine Johnson, 4 games in, those are the MVPs right now on both sides.
And then most improved.
Most
improved. Who so far?
Most improved.
Yeah, who needs to improve? No, who needs to improve the most?
Oh, who needs to improve? Who needs to improve the most? I'd probably go with someone that needs to improve.
It's not multiple choice.
I wish it was written. I thought it was written. I would say Travis J a little bit. Here and there. I don't know if he's going to be a full go for this upcoming weekend, but moving forward, I think some improvement there by him would be nice. He's made some plays, but in his one-on-ones, he's just struggled. And improving and getting better throughout the season is going to be key for him, because they've been the opposing offenses and the quarterbacks, and the coaches are dialing up on him on number 18. And so that's not what you want to see. And that kind of stinks. And definitely when it comes down to the red zone and they're targeting a wide receiver on him, it's not fantastic. So I think some improvement there for him. I'm not saying that he is a terrible player. He's awful. It's just, I expect a lot from Travis J. And I think he does the same about himself. He's a big time competitor. I want to see some more, and I want to see improvement under him.
And on the offensive side of the ball.
Offensively, I'll go
These are the questions you get as a credentialed member.
Andrew Parchman, easy answer there after last weekend, because he had that one-on-one situation. That's why he came to Florida State. That's what he said, and he just didn't make the play on the ball. It wasn't a great throw, but he came in here to be wide receiver 1, and you've got to make those plays. And so he's got to have, it's kind of been a quiet season for him thus far. I'd like to see number 7 start jumping up a little bit more and get that improvement going and getting some energy under him. I think he's definitely a talented guy, but it just hasn't. It's just kind of been pretty slow start to the season.
Logan, 1 week in the press boxes has made you smart because you've got 3 of the answers there, right? Obviously,
thank you.
The MVPs you nailed, Corbin and Jermaine Johnson. Those are the guys. Jermaine Johnson has been a beast on the defensive side of the ball, and Mark alluded to it before. Corbin is doing amazing things on offense, and I really think there needs to be more from him. As far as who needs to improve, you nailed it. And both of them are South Florida guys who need to improve. Parchman is the guy who came in, talked a lot about how he was going to dominate, how he was going to take over the passing game, and so far this season, and I get that some of it is the play calling, some of it has been designed the way Kenny Dillingham is running things offensive coordinator, but I don't feel like he has shown his big playmaking skills so far. So I want to see more out of him. And a defensive back, it's a guy who single-handedly is the reason that we lost to Jacksonville State. It's Brownlee. Brownlee's the guy who is the blown coverage is the reason we lost to Jacksonville State. You watching that Louisville game, several blown coverages. Once again, not saying Florida State would have won the game if he had played better, but I think a guy coming in here, I saw him play in high school. He plays better than this. He's a better player than what we have seen so far through the first 4 games. And if he is going to stay a part of that starting rotation, he needs to play much better.
Mm-hmm.
Quick comment as I get this in from Shark Bite, so we can move on with more comments, because when it's this complimentary, we can't pass it up. Are you guys a fan of the new graphics here? Somebody changed my graphics, and then I just kind of went with it. I like the banners with our names and so forth. I think those look cleaner, but aren't these like really microscopic?
I mean, between my new camera, I mean, we're for an 0-4 team, we got big things going on here.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think it's smooth.
Okay.
And I think maybe it's just a comment too, helping a little bit here. Shark Bite, big supporter.
Can we just picture real quick that 126 times after our first one, 125 times after our first episode, just think about where we are. Logan is a professional. Mark has great graphics. I finally got a new laptop. I mean, we are finally
we made
look
it
like a real production here, guys.
126 weeks later.
I thought a little bit more prominent for me, besides improving graphics, maybe, I guess, was that I actually left a job and now I'm doing this full time.
I wasn't bringing that up. Okay, I didn't want to go there, but I think the secret's out on that one.
Well, it's no secret. Mark Rogers, you're the man. I love this show. Also, my boy Logan Robinson is amazing. Jason, you're elite as well. And Jason somehow left us through that.
No,
Jason, can you hear us?
I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
See, here's the thing. So my new computer, I was trying to go to the other tab, and it's not. This is technology. This is live TV, guys. Live TV
there it is
happening right now.
We're here. We've made it.
What is the injury status on Jordan Travis?
So actually today, Noah was in attendance and he was participating in practice, which is a really good sign for him. I know we didn't get to see him. Didn't seem like he was available against Louisville. But today he had a really good practice, hit some good throws down the field. I know that actually we just put out our piece like about 2 minutes ago, so you're asking at a good time. But let's run through some of this. But yeah, Jordan Travis, I believe, has the potential to be available this upcoming weekend, and it's going to be interesting to see, ups and downs. It's nothing really too crazy. I mean, you had that Notre Dame game. He's had some flashes here and there, but it's just also Florida State's last couple of years, inconsistency. That's what's been going on. But Jordan Travis did get early work in 11-on-11s today, which is something to note on. I think actually. They actually had 2 deep balls in a row. Let's see. He had 2 deep balls in a row and hit his receivers in stride. Looked to be about 50 yards in the air during individual drills.
So gun to your head right now.
Was all,
and no one's putting a gun to your head, but right now.
Oh my God, where's it at?
No, stop. You're good. Guns aren't allowed in the press box. So, Mackenzie Milton will be the starting quarterback against Syracuse. If Jordan Travis is healthy enough to play, obviously the lineup, Chuba Purdy was in the 2 deep rotation at this point, and along with Sharkbite's question here, do you think Norvell and Dillingham kind of sit Travis this week, maybe get him ready for more formations and more plays against North Carolina next week, or do you think Florida State plays Jordan Travis more if he's healthy against Syracuse?
If he's healthy to go, if he's fully healthy, cleared, everything good to go, because I can't say anything, but if he's cleared to go for Saturday, then I would expect to see him out on the field. Because let's go back to last year. I mean, he was the best rusher on the field. I mean, he was, at least for Florida State, depending on who you're facing, but he was the best rusher for Florida State. Can you combine that? They've got to figure out some kind of package where it works for him, because if you think about it right now, you've got 2 great solid running backs, which are Sean Ward and you've got Deshawn Corbin, who are doing great. You have different kinds of, they both have different kind of abilities with them. Corbin's got that explosiveness. Deshaun Ward's got the twitchiness. You can add Jordan Travis in there too, and if he's fully healthy, good to go, he's just a dynamic kind of runner, and he has great vision, and he knows, kind of where the blocks are headed, and he's patient with it too. They've got to figure out a game plan to get him in there. Even if it is Mackenzie Milton starting this upcoming weekend or starting for the rest of the season, there's got to be a game plan for Jordan Travis. And I feel like I haven't liked it. I don't think the whole Florida State fan base has liked it too, on how they're trying to call plays with him, because it's completely obvious what the play is going to be. That's what we saw against Wake Forest, and it was atrocious. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were trying to have him do everything to go down the field. I mean, it was back to back plays, taking the ball, taking the snap and running with it to the left, taking the snap, trying to find something out the middle. There's got to be something better than that. And that's why Wake Forest, I mean, that was easy peasy for them to lock him down, and then obviously gets injured. So they've got to figure out a game plan. You can't leave one of your best players off the field. If he's fully healthy, he's got to be on the field as a threat. And I don't care even if he's healthy, but you still want to rest him for North Carolina. Like, that's a big game. You haven't won a game yet. You're gonna have your best chance to win against Syracuse. If he's good to go, he's got to get under the game on Saturday, and they've got to find a way to either, if he's got to start, then he's got to start. If he's able to bring them down the field, that's who you're gonna have to go with. So I feel like Norvell still, and Dillingham, they're still trying to figure out who they really want. I don't know if you guys feel that too, but it still feels like they're still toying around with who they really want to be the starter for the rest of the season, and they're gonna have to stick with it.
My concern with Jordan Travis playing against Syracuse, and this is not to belittle Syracuse at all, they're coming into this game with a 3-1 record. If Florida State has any chance of turning the season around, it needs Jordan Travis to be a part of the rotation. Logan is 100% right. Jordan Travis needs to be in the game plan. I guess my thought pattern is Florida State has a decent shot of beating Syracuse without Jordan Travis, if Jordan Travis does not play. Florida State has no chance of even competing with North Carolina on the road if Jordan Travis is injured. So that's my concern, is Jordan Travis getting hurt against Syracuse. So that would be my concern, where if you're saying, gun to my head, do you risk it, is my question. Just like Miami, I think you could use the argument that Miami risked De'Ara King too much, playing him nearly the entire game against Alabama, against Michigan State, and now he's injured and probably won't play for the second straight game this week. I feel like there has to be a certain line in the sand where you have to say, okay, here's a Syracuse team who, we can talk about this as we go on, somehow we're a 6-point favorite over Syracuse. I don't get this one. I understand it, but I don't necessarily agree with it. So that's where my question comes into play, is do you risk any potential of possibly salvaging this season later on? I'm not saying even salvage it winning record, but salvage it to maybe get 4 wins. Maybe, if a perfect world happens, do you risk that in a Syracuse game against a Syracuse team that you can more than likely beat?
You got to go for it.
When I watched the Wake Forest game, that was the first time in watching Milton versus Travis that I thought, Jordan Travis gives them more at quarterback. That was the first time I came to that realization, thinking, okay, Milton is not that much of a better passer, and Jordan Travis has, at least for that game, improved himself to be a capable passer. Plus, obviously, he's such a bigger threat running the ball that he was the better choice at quarterback. Now, I will say that, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, it appeared as though Mackenzie Milton played his best game. It wasn't a great game by any stretch, but played his best game against Louisville.
Agreed. I mean, there were a couple plays that we could talk about where he literally fell down with no one around him twice. So we can move on with that one. But for the most part, yes, of the 4 games so far this season, yes, Mackenzie Milton's best game was against Louisville. Now the question is, how can he build off that against Syracuse? If he can build off that, Florida State will be fine to get their first win this week. But that being said, you had the build-up after the Notre Dame game. He leads the 2 drives against Notre Dame. You have the huge letdown against Jacksonville State. So that's would be my one concern right now is you have this big game against Louisville. You play well, even in a losing effort. Is there that letdown against Syracuse? That's my concern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to have to they're going to have to make a decision or, like I said, implement a really good game plan every week for Jordan Travis because he's got to be played. I mean, he's got to be out there on the field, and I think it's a good sign that he was practicing today and participating and scrambling around. That's a good sign that he's going to be potentially available this upcoming weekend because we got to see him. Didn't really, I don't think, through during warm-ups, if I remember correctly, and that obviously is going to say, he's not going to be playing. And I know a lot of people are looking at Chubba Purdy too, and when will he get a chance? Will that happen this season? Could it happen this upcoming weekend? Is Jordan Travis? If Jordan Travis is not number 2, is it Chubba Purdy? And how does that work? I think FSU fans overall are just ready to have a prominent kind of just set quarterback that you can rely on and let the other pieces work out itself.
Logan, when is the last time you guys took a poll on this? What does the fan base, and what made me think of this is because I see Don in here saying, and I forget which is which. One of them says Milton. Then I caught somebody else's remark. Travis is better by far.
Christian Diaz said Milton. Don right there says Travis.
Yeah, we haven't ran one in a while, but I think this would be the perfect time because, of course, before the season, a lot of people wanted to see Mackenzie Milton, obviously. But now that we're 4 games in, it feels like they're all in the same area. I'm wondering which number, if we were to run a poll on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, who would the fan base pick? I'd be interested. Interested to hear. But I mean,
the voice of college football might be running one right now.
Oh, on the YouTube channel, I'll make my vote, and I'll keep it.
You're a credentialed member of the media. You cannot.
Oh man, who do I? Well, what about if I make it to where? Who do I think would take Florida State better down the field? Who do I think would be?
Yeah,
which player will give them more success?
But Mark, are you excited about what's about to happen here? Are you excited?
Well, it's 6:30.
Right, but this is exciting because for the first time, as a member of the credentialed media covering Florida State football, ladies and gentlemen, telling you why you need to hit the like button, the man, the myth, the legend, Logan Robinson.
There's no better feeling than hitting the like button. I've done it numerous times on Mark's show. It goes to show your support. It's free, and it's just a nice gesture. And it just means that we can count how many people are actually watching us. I know there's about over 50 right now watching. But hitting the like button, that'll mean more FSU fans in here. We could have maybe not so many Miami fans. We get some more FSU fans here. But hitting the like button, also subscribing, so then you see when the new videos are out, would be huge to support Mark because he puts out 80,000 videos every 2 hours. So it's around that range. It's somewhere. I might be off. I might be off a little bit, but
Mark,
we're trying to increase that.
Yeah. Mark, I don't know how your Miami chat was, but the Miami fans are getting a little cocky down here after beating Central Connecticut State. They're getting a little.
Well, you can imagine beating Central Connecticut State.
The powerhouse Blue Devils. The powerhouse Blue Devils.
It wasn't even Central Connecticut. It was Central Connecticut State.
Correct.
Yes.
I mean, it's
whoa.
How do you even schedule that game? How do you even know to schedule that game? I live in Connecticut. I didn't know they existed.
You pay. I actually worked with somebody one time who went to Central Connecticut State. That's the only reason I knew that school existed.
I'm going to look up to see if they've ever produced an NFL player.
I'm going to go with probably not, but you never know. That's like, for example,
yikes.
An example here. I'm going to say that's like Justin Tucker competing against the Lions. You know that field goal is going to go in from 66 yards. You knew that was going to happen. Right, Logan?
Yep. Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was,
just rubbing that one in there for you, Logan.
Oh, wow. We got an FSU student in here, too.
This is true. At least they did get the win. Congratulations. You beat your FCS opponent. You did something we did not do this season. Congratulations, Miami. You are the Northeast Conference champions. Congratulations. You're the best team in the Northeast Conference when it comes to beating Northeast Conference teams. We're very proud of you. Mazel tov.
And, of course, I'm going to remind everyone that we'll have our Miami post game after the game Thursday night. So Miami's playing a Thursday night game against Virginia this week. So we will have our post game on the Miami channel. I'm also going to do a pre-game as well because I know a lot of people will watch. That's my only incentive there to do a Miami Virginia pre-game. So I'll do a pre-game show as well. And then, of course, we'll have our Florida State Syracuse post game coming up here Saturday with Nate and Mike
for exciting ACC action.
Oh. It's going to be wild. It's going to be wild.
Logan, how much of a dumpster fire is our conference right now? Let's be honest about it. Let's take a moment. And we're not just bashing the Noles because we're 0-4. We're the worst of the group. 100% will admit it. But how much does our conference become a dumpster fire this season?
It's embarrassing. It's trash. It's dookie. And it sucks. I mean, look at Clemson too. I mean, Dabo's just, he's running down the field. He's trying to expand the college football playoff now to like 24 teams so his team can make it. He doesn't have Trevor Lawrence anymore. Like Clemson's going down. This is a time for FSU to make its strides here, kind of work up and do some magic. Florida State's keeping its commitments as much as they can, but now Georgia's after some Florida State commits. You're still going to hold on to Travis Hunter, but right now Travis Hunter is the biggest recruiting tool. He's practically a coach on FSU staff. He should be getting paid, but he's keeping a lot of these recruits inbound. AJ Duffy too, but overall the ACC though, it's dookie. It's trash, and it's just so weird to have. Now the primetime game is what, Wake Forest versus Boston College? Like, oh my God.
Oh God.
They're the two undefeated teams.
Oh God.
Are they playing this week?
That's the last week of the season, November 27th. Is Wake Forest.
Do we have your calendars marked?
Think about it. The Baptists and the Catholics are going to compete on Saturday Night Football on ABC. Game day is going to be in Chestnut Hill for Wake Forest Boston College. Dear God, where is this season going?
I am rooting for Wake Forest to run the table. I want Wake Forest to be in the college football playoff.
I don't, because that means they would come down to the Orange Bowl, and the last time they came down here, it was very interesting. They don't really know how to big time bowl it. I will say that.
There's like 6 of them.
Six of them. They don't allow alcohol to be sold at their bowl games. At least that's the way it used to be. So it's a very interesting group. But Logan, back onto the more important thing here.
Yeah.
You talked about there with recruiting, and we've seen it where a couple guys may have been wavering a little bit. How important is it to get a win this week? Not just for the psyche of the 2021 Seminoles, but to keep the recruits in line for 2022 and beyond.
Humongous. It's easy to state, they definitely need this win. But overall, I think it's just for the internally, this team to really believe. And I thought they did definitely against Notre Dame, and afterwards, I loved the post pressers, what they were saying and everything, and probably had some good practices, but they just but they just let Jacksonville State keep around. I think in this game, you'll see a little bit more of the Notre Dame play, which is crazy to think. I haven't predicted that at all this season since after Jacksonville State, and I had a feeling that they'd lose to Wake Forest and Louisville. But I feel optimistic, and the win like this helps not only recruiting, obviously that is huge, and keeps that kind of little bit of those guys straying off to go visit these other colleges and stuff a little tiny bit. Still just a win against Syracuse. Let's just put that out there. But it's just all about the sidekick of that team in the locker room. And trying to build and show improvement. And, the talent, Syracuse or Florida State, we always do this. Florida State has the talent. It's by far more talent than Syracuse. But I want to see this team energized, limit the penalties. They did that this last weekend. I mean, that was huge. Limited to just 4 penalties. I mean, that was a nice improvement there. And then you had the second half adjustments on the defensive side. The offense was clicking a little bit. I think, a win like this really gives you some good momentum heading into North Carolina. And I think it'd be perfect timing for that. If it's going to happen, I don't want to, of course we don't want it, but you don't want to see a Florida State team without a win go up to Chapel Hill. I don't really want to see that. That's not what any FSU fan wants to see. If I'm thinking for Florida State to be successful, you got to find some momentum, and it's going to have to come from this weekend. So that gets you prepared for going to face North Carolina because they want the revenge. It's going to be a packed out house, without a doubt.
This week or next week?
Next week. Next week at Chapel Hill, yeah.
There might be 40,000 people in Tallahassee. I won't be up there. Well, I'll be up there. Logan will be there, but I think there'll be plenty of good seats available for the fans. Looking at the other side there, and Mark, you're obviously the voice of college football, but can either one of you explain to me? I'm being legitimate here. I'm really trying to, honest to God, answer this question. Syracuse comes to this game at 3-1. They shut out Ohio in the opener. They beat the heck out of the Albany Great Danes. They got a close win last week against Liberty. They did lose to Rutgers. So they're 3-1. They're coming in to face an 0-4 Florida State team. Can either one of you explain to me how we're a 6-point favorite? At least enter the week as a 6-point favorite. I haven't looked since Monday, but somebody want to explain that one to me.
Here's my explanation. To your point, to further what you've already established, Rutgers is a pretty good football team. They're not bad. They're solid. They have risen to like bowl contention in the Big Ten. They're decent. They just played Michigan within a score. They've got not a real sexy, scintillating football team, but solid, decent football team.
They're target lingerie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
oh God, took a second for me.
Syracuse, let's see, beat them 17-7. I think that was
or
Rutgers beat Syracuse 17-7. Yeah. Liberty had a ton of top 25 votes entering this season, coming off an 11-1 season last year. That was very successful, and Syracuse just beat them. And so Syracuse lost to Liberty by 3 scores last year. They were good enough to beat them. This year, I don't think that this is any kind of like slam dunk for Florida State, but I get the 6 points. They are more talented. They're at home, and I think it takes Vegas a while to get moved off a trend. Like when they think something, when they're set on a team, it takes multiple results for them to get pushed
my concern,
off their number.
My concern about it is, and I mentioned a little bit before, though, is you would say arguably our best game of the season Florida State has played was the Notre Dame game. I would say without a shadow of a doubt, our best game was in the Notre Dame game. Our worst game was 6 days later against Jacksonville State, I would say, because of the level of competition. So that's my question is and we could talk about Mike Norvell's coaching. We could talk about a lot of decisions. I've stated very publicly that I think that our athletic director, David Coburn, is a hypocrite because of comments that he made, but we can talk about that at a later date. But this back and forth, that's the biggest problem right now to me, is the fact that you're playing great and then you're going to play sloppy. So, Logan, how does Florida State avoid the letdown against the Syracuse team that on paper we are more athletic than, and on paper we should win?
The biggest factor is going to have to be Florida State containing the rush game for them. Like I mentioned, they got a talented freshman running back that's one of the best in the country right now. And we've seen Florida State be able to do that, but I'm still a little worried too. Missed tackles, linebackers not being in the right position. I thought going into practice, Steven Dix Jr. had a nice practice these last couple of days, which is a good sign there too, because he's going to be utilized along with Lundy. Lundy's going to have a big game too, but the linebacker group is going to have a big one once again. And if they can play correct, the thing is, like, we see the ups and then we see the downs, and it's like, well, you got to find the consistency on the defense. That's one thing that they're going to have to do this upcoming weekend, or it's just going to be run all over you, and then you load the box, and then boom, you go against Florida State's defensive backs who are not consistent whatsoever, and it's just lopsided there, and miscommunication. It's really going to come down to that D-line setting that line right there, and then the linebackers coming down and coming down to the right gaps, and we'll see if that happens. Florida State has got to play early on defense. Start off the game a 3-and-out. I mean, start that off. Get off the field. Don't allow them field goal. That's what Florida State and Brownlee talked about. They've got to get off the field early and get the offense going into some strides. That's going to be the biggest key, I think, for me this upcoming weekend at Florida State. It kind of wants to seal off Syracuse's hope for a win in Tallahassee.
Syracuse actually never won in Tallahassee. There's your fun fact.
Fun fact.
Syracuse has never won.
Fun fact of the day. Fun fact of the day with Jason Parker.
That's how we do it then. No, yeah.
NBC 6.
That's how we do it. We will be at the game. We'll be in the press box. Hopefully,
that's right.
Hopefully
I'll get to meet Jason for the first time. I'll make sure I bring some shirts with me.
I'm just saying it'd be nice. You've been
now look at it. Now this will be perfect. Now I get to meet Jason in person and everything.
Sell them outside. It'll be great. It'll be phenomenal. I got a whole plan going.
You might be sitting right next to me.
I don't know. What seat are you in?
I'm at the bottom. I'm at the bottom at 6, right by the glass. 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah, we're 1 and 2 for the NBC side. So
I think you're to the right of me. Yeah, there were boxes out there for you guys, but Nell never showed up.
Mine King. Now let's get to this for 1 second, because this has been a topic of conversation down here and whatnot, especially because of Randy Shannon being a part of the staff this season. So Logan, I will put this to you, and I'm going to put this to Mark too. Would you support the idea? Once again, I'm not calling for anyone to get fired. I've said my opinion on what I think about Adam Fuller. Would you support, if Florida State loses this week to Syracuse, the idea of removing Adam Fuller's defensive coordinator and making Randy Shannon the interim defensive coordinator?
For me, that's something that I think Florida State will evaluate. I mean, I'm sure they kind of are in the back of Norvell's head. No one's going to get fired, I don't think, during the season. That's not what Norvell wants to do, from what I kind of heard from the inside. That's not what Norvell wants to do. These players have gone through so many coaching changes. A lot of these veterans have, and from what I've heard, he doesn't want to do any kind of. He's not going to make any fires this season, I don't believe, unless something goes wildly wrong, which it's kind of crazy to think it can go more wrong than 0-4. But I just don't see any changes being made. But I do think Florida State is looking not only maybe at Randy Shannon, but a few others that were kind of in talks with before Norvell just went ahead and got with Adam Fuller. So the Randy Shannon will definitely be in there. I think, he brings great experience, obviously, and I'm sure he's helping out. He's definitely handsy a little bit on with what he does with, recruiting. That has been huge. And then what he can do and provide on field, what he can and what he can't do. But, I'm sure Randy's like, well, I would love to be Florida State defensive coordinator, but I don't think you're just set on that and saying, all right, you're going to be it right now. It's just, I think there's going to be some others that might be coming to some contention.
Mark?
So I'm taking into consideration what Logan just said, because my initial reaction would have been, sure, Adam Fuller did not meet expectations last year. This defense is not playing well. Let's say they play a Syracuse team this week that is arguably the worst team in the conference, and let's say they lose a 38-35 game where you can't blame the offense. The defense lets up tons of yardage and points. Okay, we've seen enough. But, Logan makes a good case in regards to thinking more beyond just the X's and O's and nuts and bolts of the defense, the culture, the locker room, what these players have been through, how many changes, and what are you really going to gain through the rest of the year in making a change now versus letting it ride out and then making the appropriate changes in the off season.
I'll leave it like this. And Logan is 100% correct. Changes aren't going to be made now because there's no pressure on Mike Norvell. It's been made very clear. And when I call David Coburn a hypocrite, he is a hypocrite because he said when he fired Willie Taggart, 6-6 isn't good enough. And then at 0-3 and now 0-4, he said, we're going to stick with Mike Norvell. We're going to stick with this process. So you can make your own assessment about why he's making that comment. And I think we all know the reason where that comment came from. I think if the Florida State has another defensive letdown, and by that, I mean, don't get me wrong, Wake Forest is a good team. Wake Forest is showing that they are a good team this season. Notre Dame, obviously that big fourth quarter they had against Wisconsin last week, Notre Dame can score. So I'm not putting this all on Adam Fuller. But the defense has shown no improvement from last season. That first half against Louisville shows this defense is showing no improvement at this point. Randy Shannon was the defensive backs coach in this previous game. His defensive backs coach was out on bereavement. Randy Shannon, say what you want to about his time as the head coach of the University of Miami. When he was the defensive coordinator at Miami, the defense was amazing. When he was the defensive coordinator at Florida, they had a very good defense there. He had a good defense going at UCF. I think with another defensive letdown by Adam Fuller, my opinion is you can't. What's the worst that happens? You go through another assistant coach. You have somebody who's already on the staff. You have somebody who you can trust. The name alone of Randy Shannon with his pedigree and what he can do, I don't think you can do worse than Adam Fuller. I think he could improve that defense.
Let's catch up with two super chats, and then I've got a question for you, Jason. So thank you so much, Mike. Willie, thank you so much. See, there's an issue with the graphics being a little bit too small when I don't have my contacts in. Willie, thank you so much. No question from Willie, just wants to contribute and say thanks. Same thing from Gregory. No question there or comment, but Gregory, thank you so much for the appreciation you're showing us, Jason, Logan, and myself here on our Florida State Seminole show. And folks, don't just enjoy the show yourself. Bring your friends in here who love Florida State football or whatever your college football team. Bring them on in here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. I'll ask it this way.
Oh God.
We've talked about the standard of the program. We've talked about Willie Taggart's record when he was let go. We know what Mike Norvell's record is. Okay. I think I've had my say. I think we understand where Logan stands. My question to you would be, if you were placed in charge right now, what would be your standard for retaining Mike Norvell or letting him go?
I've said it before. My beef with Mike Norvell is not. I've interviewed the man. He's a good person. I have no problem with Mike Norvell as a person. My problem is the fact that Florida State, I'll keep it simple. Florida State has shown hypocrisy with the way everything is handled. You can't sit here and fire a coach who's 9-12, and I agree. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. Willie Taggart was not ready to coach the Florida State Seminoles. I've said that before. I'll say it again. You don't fire him after 21 games. You don't fire any coach unless you know for a fact you're going to get something better. And I don't think Mike Norvell is better than what Willie Taggart was. And his record so far is showing it. You have to put last year into what it was. Last year happened. I get the no spring ball. I get all the other circumstances surrounding it. But he is 3-10 as the head coach of the Florida State Seminoles. Right now, he has to go 6-2 the rest of the way just to equal what the previous coach's record was when he was fired after 21 games. If you're going by that standard, if you're going by the comments from hypocrite David Coburn saying 6-6 is not acceptable, but then you're going to sit there and defend somebody who starts the season 0-3 for the first time since 1976, who's now 0-4 for the first time to start a season since 1974. You can't have one standard for one coach and one standard for another. Don't get me wrong. I will be up there cheering my heart out for Florida State, and I hope to God that.
Whoa, you're credentialed. Whoa, you're credentialed.
I also have season tickets. I'm going to be going there watching the game. But I want Florida State to win. very adamant that I want Florida State to win. The problem is going to be you're going to have a certain segment of the fan base, certain segment of the administration, certain segment of the boosters that are going to defend Mike Norvell no matter what. If you want to defend Mike Norvell for what happened last season and say, well, last season was a pandemic year, last season was a COVID year, that's fine. I get it. But tell me where the improvement is. I'm not so much upset that we were 0-4, that we're 0-4 at this point. I'm upset that we're seeing the same mistakes, seeing the same errors that we saw last year. Is Wake Forest a 21-point better team than Florida State is if you compare roster to roster? God, no. Is Jacksonville State a better team than we are if you compare roster to roster? No. Is Louisville, if you compare roster to roster, a better team than Florida State? Probably not. Yet our record is 0-4. And if I have to sit there and swallow for 21 games, people like Logan, people like a lot of the haters sitting there saying, it's Taggart's fault, he's the coach, it's Taggart's fault, he's the coach, if Taggart's fault, he's the coach, then this one is on Mike Norvell. No circumstances, no COVID, no nothing. He is 0-4 to start the season. Florida State has not been this bad to start the season in nearly a half century. That's not on Jimbo Fisher. That's not on Willie Taggart. That's on Mike Norvell. So if you're sitting there saying, would I keep him? I don't think he should be fired after the season unless it's a complete letdown. And by complete letdown, I would say 3-9 or worse. If Florida State finishes 3-9, 2-10, 1-11, which we need to realistically accept the fact that could happen, he needs to be fired. Buyout be damned, it doesn't matter. If Florida State can finish 4-8, finish 4-4, salvage this dumpster fire that we've been on so far this season, give him at least the start of next season. But if Florida State finishes 3-9 or finishes with double-digit losses for the first time since the early 1970s, you cannot justify keeping him.
What do you think, Mark?
I can agree with that. I see that happening all over the country. I think we do, where a coach will be in his second season, and if it's really, really that bad compared to the talent level, where they will get let go. For some reason, a third season just seems fair for both him and for Willie Taggart. And that's why I made the statements at the time about Willie Taggart receiving a third season. It just seems fair.
And that's the thing. I don't know right now. This sends the team that has the talent to beat Syracuse, to beat UMass, to maybe beat a Boston College, or maybe if Miami starts to tank, maybe you never know. That's what's weird about this team is this team has the talent to finish 4-8, 5-7, have a good last 2/3 of the season. But the way they've played, they play like a team that's going to finish 2-10, and that's what's scary is we don't know. More importantly, Logan, are you going to make a prediction for this week's game or not?
Oh, I definitely am.
Make it.
Were you going to say something, Mark?
I'm going to cut out, and I'm going to let you guys wrap it up. And you guys take it as long as you want, or wrap it up, do whatever you want. I'm going to duck out right now, and I will watch the replay because I cannot miss these picks.
Oh, these picks.
Logan, make the pick. Logan, go.
Yeah, because I got schoolwork to do at 7. Pick for me. So after being at the practice, it helps a lot being at practices now and kind of getting a feel for what this team is. So last Tuesday, completely dead, no energy, nothing, just not energy whatsoever. And I was like, well, I'm not seeing a good sign where Florida State I can feel comfortable about picking them. I'm looking at Syracuse right now, and they're not a huge, big time scoring team unless we're going to Albany, but 24. Got 24 points over Liberty. And I do think Florida State's defense it's only one game, so I don't want to just buy in right now and say, Florida State's defense is back. I don't want to say that, but I do think that second half was huge for them, and it helped a lot. It helped a lot in the film room. I do have Florida State turning things around, getting their first win this upcoming weekend. I got Florida State 31, Syracuse 28. Florida State's going to get their first win this weekend. I've only been wrong on one game this season, so I feel good about it. I'm starting to risk things here now, but I'm interested to see what everybody else in the chat says. Jason, what do we got?
If I drive 840 miles round trip for another loss, I'm going to get pissed. I don't have the confidence that Florida State can win the game just because I don't know what Florida State team is going to show up based on what we've seen in the first 4 games. I do think that Florida State is the more talented team out of the group. I could easily be wrong, but I'm going to let my heart pick this one over my head, and I'm going to say Florida State 27, Syracuse 21.
Oh, okay. 27-21. 27-21. Let's look at the
Why
weather. We have to look at the weather always. That's the most important thing. Completely out of all the slate of the next week and a half. Complete slate. All sunny. High of 89. Probably going to get into maybe low 80s by the time, fourth quarter's around. Should be a beautiful day once again, just like it was last weekend. The weather gods are with us. So
guys, make sure to tune in next week to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. See if Logan and I know what the hell we're talking about, or we could be wrong, or we could actually be celebrating a Florida State win. Now, it's been nearly 10 months since we've celebrated a Florida State win. So we're going to try to spend, if Florida State is victorious, we will prep. We will try to see if we remember how to do this.
Yeah, how to react to a win. Right. Actually, people in the comments will be happy. They'll be like, oh, wow, this is awesome. This is great. I'm sure there'll still be some complainers. There always is. We can't be all 100% happy, but that would be nice to jump back up on here on next Wednesday at 6 o'clock and talk about Florida State's first one.
More importantly, we will find out how much Chick-fil-A Logan can eat.
Oh, man. We'll see. I'll see how much Jason is sneaking. Might try to take mine.
I don't eat the Chick-fil-A. I'm not a Chick-fil-A guy. We've been over this.
Only Popeyes?
100%. I don't eat the anti-LGBTQ chicken. I'm all about the Popeyes life. We've been over this.
That's fine. I don't blame the Popeyes thing. I just can't believe you're giving away from Jesus chicken.
You can have the Christian chicken. I promise you. You can have my Christian chicken.
Thank you. Next week. I'll take your box then for sure.
There you go. You got it. So tune in next week. We'll recap Florida State Syracuse, and we'll preview Florida State North Carolina. Dear God, it only gets better from here.
It's going to get fun. This is where the fun starts beginning.
Yeah, fun. That's the word I was thinking of. So tune in next week. Logan, Jason, and Mark Rogers TV, the West College Football.
Yeah. Bye, Jason. Have a good week.
Later.